Hi guys, welcome to the channel, The Boss's Way. This is a retro TCG, Pokemon TCG channel. It's going to be a fairly casual channel. I'll be uploading whenever I can. I've got over 40 decks, ranging from different formats, maybe close to actually 50. Range from base fossil to Neon, Rocketon, a lot of Rocketon, really like Rocketon, a lot of 2004, a lot of 2010, some 2013, some 2017, and I've kind of frozen off the current standard format. I've built maybe 7 or 8 decks that kind of ignore the tag team mechanic of the current standard format. This is August 2021 when this video is being recorded, and I plan to just freeze those decks really and stop them as they are and kind of not progress with them into the new standard format, which will be happening at the end of this month, start of September, when rotation hits. Because I just really like the current standard format when you take the tag teams out, and that's kind of what I've done. I've almost kind of made my own version of the current standard by doing so, and I think the decks by and large are fairly balanced. So that's the kind of general synopsis of what I hope to do with the channel. Again, like I said, it's fairly casual, but yeah, I like to show off the decks that I've built and maybe show people who are thinking of building decks in these formats, kind of what I've done. Also, of course, big shout out to Jason Klczynski's blog for any and all retro content deck building. He's the guy to go to. So I'll send you, or I'll attach the link below in the description. And obviously, if you're building 04, Jay Hornung's Jay's Advice YouTube channel is always a very good place to go as well. And later on, in the later videos, I'll definitely be referencing himself. So, to start us off, I'm going to start us off with a base fossil deck. It's going to be a Buzzap Electrode deck from the base fossil era there. And again, this is a fairly casual thing for me, guys, so apologies if the quality of the visuals and the audio isn't as good as you'll see elsewhere. It's just, again, just a very casual thing for fun for myself. But hopefully it's clear enough for you guys to understand what's going on, and that's the whole idea of it. So yeah, it's going to be Electrode's Buzzap ability or Pokepower, and basically when it pops off, it lets you you lose Electrode, so you give up a prize, but then you get to pick you can convert that Electrode into any 2 types of energy you want, and then that of course is used to power up our main attacker in the deck, which is this Arcanine here, and we can see there Flamethrower and Takedown do pretty big damage. 50 and 80 are pretty big damage for base fossil, and for Electrode to be able to provide 2 energy for those types of attacks, it means you can swing pretty hard. Now obviously you're giving up prizes as well as you're doing that, so it's kind of a race against the clock against your opponents, because as you're giving up prizes, you give up 1 prize for Electrode, you want to be taking then 2 prizes with Arcanine before it gets knocked out, to win the prize trade. It's a really fun deck. It's kind of an all-in deck, which I really like. So let's start us off. So starting ourselves off with 3 copies of Growlithe here, with the Flare attack. Sorry, just there. Yeah, Flare. Yeah, I mean, 2 for 20. Like, it's not amazing, but it's the Growlithe that we have. Then obviously we're evolving into the Arcanine that I have shown earlier on there. So there we go, Flamethrower and Takedown. 3 copies of these. Flamethrower, discard 1 fire energy attached to Arcanine. It does 50, and then Takedown does 80, but then does 30 to Arcanine. And this is before the time of metal energy reducing damage and things like that. But again, the whole idea being that you win that prize trade, that you Buzzap an Electrode and you're down a prize, but then Arcanine can stick around long enough and do enough damage to take 2 prizes. And again, with 100 hit points, back in the day 100 hit points is pretty good for base fossil. And then this is the Voltorb that we are using. before our Electrodes. 1 for 10 is good. You know, I mean, it's good to be able to just to attach and attack. You know, in base fossil you can attack going first, turn 1. So it's nice to have a Pokemon that, you know, can do that for you. Obviously 40 hit points is pretty low, and if you come across like a Machop or you know, more common, I guess, you know, a Machamp, or not a Machamp, sorry, a Hitmonchan, then they're going to hit you for weakness and one-shot you with 1 energy, which isn't great. But it's again, if you're attacking with the Voltorb, things aren't really going to plan anyway. And then again, we have the 4 copies of the Electrode that I showed you there, with the Buzzap power. Again, let me just show you there, guys. Yeah. So again, Buzzap, like we said, gives you 2 of any kind of energy you want. There is Electric Shock. Flip a coin. If tails, Electrode does 10 damage to itself, and then it does 50 damage. I mean, technically, you could Buzzap onto a different Electrode, but I mean, like, I can't think of why you'd ever want to do that. You'd have to be really, really desperate to do that, or maybe if you're hitting for weakness or something. Something that had electric weakness, lightning weakness, then perhaps that could be a thing. So now we're actually moving on to the perfect starter for this deck. So anytime you play this deck, you want to see this guy here, Psyduck, in your opening hand. 50 hit points. It's that first attack, Headache, is what you're going to want to be using. So Headache reads, your opponent can't play trainer cards during his or her next turn. So the idea is you start off with your Psyduck, and then you kind of lock your opponent out of their bills and their oaks, because remember, in this format you can go back-to-back bills, back-to-back oaks, and you're just denying them access to their deck while you kind of set up your bench with your Voltorbs and your Growlithes, and getting into your Electrodes and getting into your Arcanines. So ideally, Psyduck is, you're wanting to see Psyduck as soon as possible, and Psyduck makes the perfect starter, just to give you a little bit more time to set yourself up. Although at any stage in the game, you know, you know, Psyduck can be decent to kind of slow your opponent down as well. But he doesn't swing very hard, and Headache does no damage. So again, it's more for the start. And then we have 1 copy of Ghastly here. Ghastly, one of my favourite Pokemon. And again, Ghastly, 50 hit points. It's for the first attack that does 10 damage. Lick. Flip a coin. If heads, defending Pokemon is now paralysed. So not amazing, but again, 1 for 10 is not bad. And we have flip a coin. If heads, you know, is paralysed. So the idea behind this is there's a Mr. Mime roaming around in this format that basically has a barrier ability that prevents it from taking any damage from attacks that are above 30 damage. So this guy actually is an answer to that, because otherwise we don't really have an answer. I mean, you could start powering up a Growlithe, but committing 2 energy to it, not great. So you know, this is our answer really to that Mr. Mime. Yeah, it also doesn't have any weakness, which is pretty nice. So that's our 1 copy of Ghastly. So now, moving on to our trainers, we have 3 copies of Lass. So Lass is a pretty cool card, a pretty OP card really. You and your opponent show each other your hands, then shuffle all the trainers you find there into your deck. So, pretty busted card. You can strip your opponent of all of their trainer cards. Obviously, you only play this, you know, when you've played all of yours down, or you feel like it's going to be more detrimental to your opponent. So then we have 3 copies of Switch. Pretty basic card, and the TCG's been around for pretty much every format, I think. Switch one of your bench Pokemon with your active. So again, just helps get your Arcanines in and out of there as needed. Or maybe if you have a Psyduck stuck in the active and you want it out to start swinging with your Arcanines. 4 Professor Oak, so the original bin draw 7. So it's good for just getting through your deck, finding the resources you need. So we have 4 of those. Yep. Then we have our Item Finder. 4 copies of Item Finder. So Item Finder reads, discard 2 cards, 2 other cards from your hand in order to put a trainer from your discard back into your hand. So again, you can find, it could be a 4th Lass, it could be even a 5th Oak, although at that stage you probably have ran out of cards if you're playing it for the Oak for the 5th time. But it's just handy for finding resources that you've gone through already or maybe had to discard before. Computer Search, pretty powerful card. 4 copies of it. Discard 2 other cards from your hand to search your deck for literally any card you want in your deck. So it comes as a price of 2 cards, but well worth it because you pick any card you want at all. And if you think about later formats, and you think of Ultra Ball, for instance, that requires you to discard 2 cards as well. But then, in fairness, you can pick any Pokemon you want with Ultra Ball, which is why you have to pay 2 cards to do that. Computer Search lets you pick any card you want at all, so just goes to show how strong it is. Then we have 4 copies of Bill. So Bill is just draw 2 cards, and again, there's no supporters distinction between supporters and items in this format, so you can literally bill into bill into bill into bill, and keep drawing away. So it's super powerful, and there's no drawback to it, so you just have to be careful you don't mill yourself out. So there's 4 of those. Then we have our Pokemon Trader as well. So Pokemon Trader, swap a Pokemon in your hand with another Pokemon in your deck. So it could be a basic for an evolution for a basic. And you'll notice that some of my cards are actually not in English. I think this is German. And again, these cards have become really, really difficult to find at a decent price. So I do sometimes go for non-English versions of cards just to save a bit of money. And they're easier to find as well. So we move on to the last few trainers we have here. So we have 2 copies of Defender. So again, Defender is, as we kind of touched upon earlier on, we don't have that metal energy anymore. Well, it didn't exist yet. So Defender kind of acts as a bit of a damage buffer for Arcanine when it's using those powerful takedown attacks. So attach Defender to one of your Pokemon at the end of your opponent's next turn. Discard Defender. Damage done to that Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 20. So pretty good for reducing damage to Arcanine when it's using takedown, and also I suppose when if any other Pokemon or even Arcanine from your opponent's attacks, but you do have to get rid of it once you use it. Then we have our energy removal. So you just remove an energy from your basic energy from your opponent's side of the field. 2 copies of that. You'll find that card is pretty much in every single base fossil deck. Then we have a few one-offs. A one-off plus power lets you do 10 more extra damage, can be useful here and there. We have a one-off energy retrieval as well, so trade 1 card to get 2 basic energies back from your discard pile. And then we have 1 gust of wind, allowing you to bring up a Pokemon from your opponent's bench and to bring it up into the active, maybe if something that's easier to knock out or maybe a threat that you've noticed. So our basic energy count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 psychic energy. It can be used with Ghastly. It can be used then for Psychic with Psyduck, which is really important. If you go and look at Arcanine, Arcanine is 2 fires and 2 colourless for takedown, and then 2 fires and 1 colourless for Flamethrower. So Psychic energy can be used to help fulfill those attacks. The majority of your fire energy in this deck is going to be Electrode, converting itself into fire energy. So you have your Psychic energy there. It'll still fulfill that role for Arcanine, but then at the same time, it allows Ghastly to attack and it allows Psyduck to attack, and Psyduck's super important in the deck. We do have 1 copy of fire energy though, just to have that handiness of being able to attach a fire energy to Arcanine when needed. And then we play 3 copies of DCE as well. I mean, you could possibly play a 4th because obviously takedown does require double colourless as part of its attack cost. But again, you do have Electrode there providing 2 for you. And again, I suppose in this format you have to be very careful when you throw down your energies with energy removal and super energy removal around. So especially with this deck, you need to, I suppose, attach your energies the same turn you plan to attack. So say for instance, if you had an Arcanine out in the active, then you'd slap down your DCE, you'd pop off your Buzzap Electrode from the bench, accelerate 2 fire onto it, and then attack that same turn as you attach. And even if next turn your opponent plays their energy removal cards, you're not getting super punished for, because you've actually used those energy to get an attack off. And you know, if you're swinging for 50 or 80 or with a plus power 90 or 60, more than likely you're knocking something out and taking a prize. So you are capitalizing on that, which is super important. Well, that's it, guys. That's the Electrode Arcanine base fossil deck using the Buzz app, Pokemon Power. Yeah, I hope you found it useful. Again, this is more or less very similar, if not exactly, the list you'll find on Jason Kaczynski's site. Sometimes I edit decks here and there. In the next base fossil deck, it'll be a little bit more of my own kind of creation, taking on board other decks that were built on Jason's site. But for now, that's the boss's way, and we hope to see you next time.